This is Athens on a steamy hot Saturday morning. The #1 team in all of college football, the back-to-back national champion Georgia Bulldogs, and their second of 4 straight home games to start the year, this time against the Ball State Cardinals in the first ever meeting between these two schools. Georgia's Kirby Smart getting ready to take the field here at Sanford Stadium. With the College Football Hall of Famer Matt Stinchcomb, I'm Taylor Zarzer. Alyssa Lang's on that field. You'll see her in just a second. The talk of the town so far is the new Georgia offense. No more Stetson Bennett, so Carson Beck's now the starter, and the old coordinator is again the coordinator in Mike Bobo, and everybody in town has an opinion on it.
Passionate opinion at that. That comes with championships and success. Up and down performance in week 1. Looked a lot like a week 1 performance. A lot of new faces, as you mentioned, Taylor. Makai Muse, a walk-on wide receiver, generating a big play in the passing game. There were some many spots that you could build upon. Kendall Milton wasn't even full speed. He was kind of pressed into service in that opener, more healthy now. And then there were some hiccups, there's no doubt. New first-time starter at quarterback, a new face in Dominic Lovett. At wide receiver, a couple of balls he'd want back. He's going to be a big contributor down the line.
Here are the big stars last week. Bowers was great as always. Everybody relax. They'll keep showing those wrinkles as the games continue. Georgia won the toss and elected to receive. That means Carson Beck gets the ball again, Alyssa. How were his nerves last week?
The nerves were nerving last week, Taylor, according to Carson Beck, but he did say coming out of the tunnel for the first time on this field as QB1 was a feeling that he can't even describe, potentially the best emotion he's ever felt in his entire life. He said the difference from last week to this week is now he has a better idea of what he wants to do throughout the week to feel comfortable. He settled in throughout the day last Saturday, but this week at practice, he made an effort to make sure he was communicating more with his wide receivers throughout the course of practices, pulling them aside, having conversations. What are you seeing? What am I seeing? To make sure we are always on the same page. Obviously, having receiver Marcus Rosemy-Jack-Saint will be huge for him today, but wanting to continue to execute, specifically focusing on third down and red zone plays, something that he spent a lot of time on from last week, guys.
All right, we'll see if he can improve there, Alyssa. There's no doubt he is QB1. For Mike New and Ball State, he's got a ton of options at quarterback, maybe as many as 4 in his 8th year as a head coach of the Cardinals. 2 MAC titles as a player, 1 as a coach. Consecutive bowl appearances in 2020 and 2021, 5 and 7 last year. These Cardinals are in Athens for the first time ever. Ball State rather is playing SEC opponents though in consecutive weeks. Lost to Kentucky last Saturday. They are 0-12 lifetime in the SEC, and they have to deal with humidity that is all over Matt Stinchcomb's dress shirt as we get ready for kick between the Cardinals and the Dogs. Jack Drake is going to kick to that guy you were talking about, Makai Muse. He does it all. Little man for the Dogs is standing at his goal line, and here he comes. And there he goes, past the 45-yard line. Nice field position for Carson Beck, the junior from Jacksonville, Florida, was Mr. Florida in 2018. Originally was going to go play baseball for the Florida Gators. The Gators, yeah, that's right. And then it ultimately flipped and decided to go play for Georgia. First career start last week. Kirby Smart wants Carson to be more aggressive today, Stinch. We'll see what that means. Kendall Milton standing next to him on the first play, and he's throwing and throws a good ball to Dylan Bell, a sophomore from Houston, Texas. It's a 9-yard pickup for Carson. Kind of crazy, Stinch, that was his first start in 4 years. He was in high school the last time this guy started a football game.
He's been in Athens a long time, but hasn't started football for a long time. Had an opportunity a couple of years ago. He's waited his turn, something that his teammates pointed out. They respect that. He's a guy that they know has capability, wants to seize the opportunity he has now.
Bowers going in motion, the give to Milton, first down for Kendall. You mentioned that he wasn't 100%. You could see it on that long run too, Stinch, that you were talking about in the open. That hamstring is getting a little bit better.
Yeah, it was a little bit slow out of the gate last week. Didn't have that explosive pop.
Here's some tempo for Kendall as he takes that toss and in traffic gets past the 40 down to the 38-yard line. Second and long. Should see some Dejon Edwards today for Georgia. Did not play last week with the MCL issue. You also will see Marcus Rosemy Jack Saint did not play due to team violations last week, but no Ladd McConkey today. Stinch still dealing with that back injury.
Sometimes you'll see Brock Bowers in the backfield like he is right now.
2nd and 8. Quick throw, a good one. It's a first down throw to Rosemy Jack Saint. And despite the mistake that he made that led to him not playing last week, Kirby Smart says he's as big a leader as we've got on this team.
And a guy that they clearly trust as a performer on the field. He's obviously got tremendous influence in that locker room. A veteran player, a guy that Carson Beck brought up. It's like, look, we've got a ton of banked reps together. One that he can trust to go to the football with.
Already inside the Ball State 29-yard line. Just 2 minutes into the football game. You see that clock continuing the run, which it does now, even when there's a first down. Beck has plenty of time, and out the back, that's a catch. And a great one by Dominic Lovett on a ball thrown behind him. The Mizzou transfer picks up 16.
Great adjustment to that ball by Dom Lovett. Well, last week, we talked about it. A couple of balls he would have wanted back. Watch this coming back for this one to get his hands underneath it.
Fake to Milton, wants to go one on run, and just off kilter there with Rosemy Jack Saint. It'll be 2nd down. Dogs were 5 of 5 in the red zone last week. Let's go back 2 plays ago.
Yeah, part of the reason why Georgia was probably going fast was to make sure that they got this back up and going. I don't see anything from that angle that could say that it wasn't a catch. We talked about it last week. A couple of contested throws. One was thrown behind him on a 3rd down, but that time an excellent adjustment.
Milton out. True freshman Roderick Robinson in after playing so well last week, and here he is going straight ahead, not getting much, as Cole Pierce makes the tackle at the 10-yard line. 8 carries, 50 yards, including a 23-yard run for the man from San Diego last week.
Had some good reps, had some true freshman reps. Missed a couple of holes, could have pressed a hole, missed a cutback. Well, a lot of new faces, as we mentioned off the top, that were in that offense to start the game. And
got an injury for Ball State. I believe that's Joey Stemler. And he is down, a sophomore for Cleves, Ohio. It's the last thing that Ball State wants after what happened to Clayton Call last week. Clayton, your teammates love you. Your head coach, Mike New, got emotional talking about you before this game. You are very much a part of this Ball State program. Welcome to SEC Saturday Football presented by Allstate, where Clayton Call got hurt in the 2nd quarter last week with a left leg injury, and now Joey Stemler Stinch is being helped off the field in the 1st quarter this week.
yeah, it's already had kind of a cascade effect on how they deploy their personnel, especially at linebacker. Keontae Newsom in their number 9 will spend more time in the box, this time flexed out towards this bunch formation.
This is a 3rd and 8 on the 9th play of the drive for Georgia. They can get a first. Here's Beck, he's gonna keep it. He's gonna give up the football, but it's recovered by Georgia. It's Keontae Newsom that you were just talking about that forced that fumble.
Beck with the ball in his right arm. Newsom comes right up, puts his helmet right on the button. Ball comes shooting out. Georgia really lucky to get that ball back. Kendall Milton with the heads-up play to get on it to afford them this field goal opportunity.
Brock Bowers had a fumble last week that was recovered by a teammate, and now Beck, who will hold this field goal a try by Peyton Woodring. It's 28 yards in length. The true freshman from Lafayette, Louisiana, hooked it. Well, this is the best team in the country last year in the red zone, and they get no points on their first drive of the 2nd game.
Clean snap, clean hold, and Woodring, I mean, he pured it straight ahead. Too bad it was on the hash. Those uprights don't reach that wide. And on that drive, Georgia squandering excellent field position off a fantastic kickoff return by Mekhi Muse. Carson Beck, a little bit off target. You think about that completion to Dom Lovett, had to come back for the football. Then he tried a back shoulder to Rosemy Jack-Saint.
This is Caden Samanza starting the game, and he hands it to a guy that Georgia fans might remember. Marquez Cooper, the transfer from Kent State, ran all over the Dogs last year. 90 yards on the ground in that four-quarter fight that Georgia had with Kent State last year.
Versus that high-octane, up-tempo offense that Kent State was running a year ago. You now see that same offense, incidentally, in Colorado. But Marquez Cooper, a guy that hurt the Dogs not only on the ground, but also as a receiver out of the backfield.
He picked up two. Samanza will throw, and it's a good ball that's caught by Ahmad Edwards, the transfer from Jacksonville State, right near the first down, and he gets it. Samanza came in and played the second half last week against Kentucky. Looked good. One of 4 true freshman quarterback stints to play in their team's first game all across America last week.
Well, they made the change. Started with Lane Hatcher. They came out of half. They felt like they needed to push the ball downfield, and Samanza led a 10-play drive to put the ball in the end zone.
You will see Lane Hatcher. You will see Kyle Kelly at quarterback as well. Have to get rid of it, and the Dogs sniff this one out. This is Max Webster. You might see him at quarterback today, too. He didn't pick up much. Samanza, the true freshman from Mission Viejo, California, which has produced Mark Sanchez and Jordan Palmer. His favorite current athlete is Mikey Matthews, his buddy that plays for Utah. He has 2 siblings, Cash and Kingsley, that I'm sure glued to what's happening here today. No gain, and now the quick give to Gilly, and Gilly around the edge gets a few, maybe 4. It'll be 3rd down after the Smile Munden tackle. Munden expected to play a lot more this week than what we saw last week with that foot injury.
Yeah, a guy that they're expecting to really start to round into form health-wise. They know what Smile Munden can do. Excellent football player, but a guy that needs to stay healthy so he can make plays. Right here at Ball State, they had a hard time pushing the ball downfield in the first half. We just mentioned Samanza was able to stretch a defense.
On 3rd and 6, the quick throw, and it's a good ball again. It's caught by Keon Magwood. Right near, let's see, looks like just short of that yellow line. And it is, it's 4th down. The offense, at least for now, is staying on the field for Coach New.
Aggressive call on the minus side of the field. You've already gotten a stop. Georgia with the great field position to start. You turn them away with no points, but you would be forfeiting yet again. Excellent field position.
Play clock is down to 10. They're not out of the huddle yet. How does the true freshman quarterback deal with Sanford Stadium? Instead, they call timeout.
Well, it looked like they were going to run a play, there's no doubt. Based on the reaction of the players there, Ahmad Edwards, you could see him when they had to take that timeout, late out of the huddle, as you mentioned, Taylor. That's tough sledding. When you think about Georgia, as good as they are on the back end, they've got size up front. I don't care what the distance is to go on a 4th down, it's challenging. But it looked like there was going to be more than just a bluff play based on the offensive players' reactions.
Hardest thing for Coach New is last year his team, you could argue, is just as good as the teams that went to bowl games the 2 seasons prior to that. They lost 4 games by 7 points or less, lost the last game to Miami of Ohio by 1 point. This team might be better than all of those teams. But you play Kentucky, you play Georgia to start the season, already some significant injuries to your defense. What's left once you get into that MAC schedule is the big question.
Yeah, and when you look at what the success that they've enjoyed, I mean, not that far removed from a MAC championship, a conference championship performance back in 2020. It had been a long time coming. It was a team that the moment wasn't too big for them last week versus Kentucky in the first half.
What does he dial up on a 4th and inches? Cooper. Second effort. Got it. Ball State now 2 of 3 on 4th down this season.
and picks up the Ball State first down.
Well, that's a heck of a run, because you're talking about one-on-one in the hole. Smile Munden was there. The second effort, as you mentioned, Marquez Cooper, watch him just gut it out. You're met with 3 defenders, but that leg drive, he slid to the right just enough to nudge it forward. Physical run.
Got it on your own -40, a new set of downs, and this ball is overthrown, looking for that Colorado transfer, Ty Robinson, who had a terrific game against Kentucky last week.
Samanza's taking some shots early, and I don't mean throwing the ball downfield. I mean getting hit as he threw. It's at least the second time where he has gotten grilled as he released the football. Probably was trying to compensate for that release time, let it go earlier than he wanted to, and so he had to hang it up.
Dalen Everett was stride for stride with Robinson on that last incompletion. 2nd and 10, holds it for a moment, gets the defense to bite and finds his big tight end, Tanner Koziel, the sophomore from Bloomington. In a big game last week, 8 catches for 66 yards in Lexington. That's a first down.
Koziel's a heck of a target. A guy that they're going to seek many times. Leading receiver a week ago, proved to be not just a security blanket, but a playmaker for him. Was involved in a big play that went the other way for Kentucky.
Yeah, you know what they're saying in Muncie, Indiana? That was targeting is what they're saying.
Yeah, they are.
It was debatable. Cooper's bottled up in the backfield, but got rid of the first pursuers and then gets bottled up, losing even more yardage. Back to the 45, it's a loss of 9. Tyke Smith and Marvin Jones Jr. finished him.
Great penetration by Warren Brinson almost right now. And you're looking for a reach block, he comes underneath it. He's the one that disrupted it. Did a great job getting upfield, and big Marvin Jones, who was in coverage on that previous reception by Koziel, was able to get up there and clean it up.
Sophomore from Sunrise, Florida. Who's the next great dog linebacker? Maybe it's him. Rico Barfield's in the backfield, a tunnel screen, and Barfield fell down. So it's 3rd and 19 now for Samanza. Samanza started, or Lane Hatcher rather, started last week against Kentucky. Figured to see him at some point during this game today, and played well when he was in there last week.
Well, and so you've got a true freshman quarterback in there right now. You got to be smart. You just called a screen for a reason. 2nd and long. Now it's 3rd and even further. You've already been aggressive, but you don't want to have your true freshman make a bad decision trying to get all of this back in one play.
On 3rd and 19, Samanza goes underneath. Let's see if Malcolm Gilly can make someone miss. Nope. He does get into Dogs territory back near the original line of scrimmage. Be about 4th and 10. And Coach New will bring the punting team on the field.
That's a smart call. You know, you got to realize who you got out there, right? Anybody, not many folks have a 3rd and almost 20 in their back pocket. But the other thing too is you want to make sure that you don't forfeit, make a bad decision versus an opportunistic defense.
Lucas Burrow will punt to Makai Muse, see if the Aussie punter rather, can pin Georgia deep. Goes over Muse's head and into the end zone for a touchback. 5:25 to go in the first quarter. Georgia's offense back on the field when we come back.
SEC Network Football is presented by Allstate. You're in good hands.
Back-to-back national champions. Kirby Smart, of course, coaching both of those teams, says that this team has a similar dynamic to last year, with most of the leadership, minus Stetson Bennett, that is back. High quality, high character guys that are always on time, Kirby says. Of course, he does have a new offensive coordinator this year. Todd Monken left to go back to the National Football League, and now Mike Bobo is back as the offensive coordinator. He was on the staff last year, but now is coordinating the offense again, and he put up some big-time numbers when he was working for Coach Richt. Dominic Lovett does not get much on that end around. Bobo, the quarterback in the Stinchcomb era, 94 to 97, 14 years as an assistant under Mark Richt. He said the biggest difference now in coordinating the offense as opposed to the first stint is finding ways to get athletes the ball quickly, like that last play.
Yeah.
Didn't work, but he's trying to get these guys like Lovett and Bowers get the ball in their hands real quickly. 2nd and 8 after the 2-yard gain, and Dylan Bell is in the backfield. And there's Dylan carrying the football, got tripped up, but he does get a first down. So Coach Bobo full of all kinds of surprises with receivers running the ball in consecutive plays.
I think it demonstrates maybe how thin they are right now in the running back room, and credit Tate Ratledge's, I think, right ankle with this tackle. Dylan Bell just clipping his own blocker. Otherwise, that was a great hole. Very well executed that time on the edge.
Does that go in the book as a tackle for Ratledge?
Not the kind that you would want, that's for sure.
Up to the 32-yard line, staying on the ground with Milton, bouncing off Ball State defenders, and gets past the 37-yard line. Yeah, to your point, you lose Branson Robinson with the season-ending knee injury in August. You've got Milton. We should see Dejon Edwards at some point today. Roderick Robinson, the true freshman. But all those guys are kind of fighting to be the guy for Georgia. Beck fakes once and then throws to Milton. And he can't get loose of 2 Ball State defenders. Cole Pierce first to wrap him up. It's a pickup. It's a loss of 3.
You know, that time they were trying to bluff Ball State, see if they would come up on what looked like a swing pass, have the receivers blocking. Instead, they released. And last week we saw him, he sought out Dom Lovett on 3rd downs. He would be the inside of those 3 receivers. He's right here.
Beck is 5 of 6 passing so far for 34 yards. And there goes Lovett in motion. Beck's looking that way, throws to him, got it. Great catch, and run after the catch for the Mizzou transfer that caught 82 balls in 2 years in Como.
Great job of sticking with that ball, right? Mallory was right there. Was able to come up. Last week we saw a similar throw. It was kind of a bang-bang. Defender arrived at the same time. The ball ended up on the ground. That time Lovett, big 3rd down catch.
This feels like a coup for Carson Beck to have a guy that had over 1,000 yards receiving. Cash Jones is in the backfield this time. Fake to him, swing it out. Here's Bowers. Only got a couple of yards after making the catch, which is rare. Usually he breaks a few tackles before he's on the ground. Kirby Smart yesterday, Stench said, it's hard to say anyone is better at football than he is.
Yeah, and he said really the only mitigating factor for Brock Bowers is, you know, he's not a quarterback. He's a guy that you have to find ways to get him the ball, and you see Kirby Smart there now. He's talking to C.J. Smith. Why? They expect receivers to block. Smith did not block well on that one, hence the quick tackle on Bowers.
Bell back in the backfield is swing it to Lovett, and Lovett can't make the defender miss. Again, a missed block. That's a loss of 1.
Yes, back-to-back plays where you've got opportunity and space to throw into. You know, we can talk about receiving chemistry with quarterbacks and receivers, but see Smith, he's beat right now by Damian Charity. Great job of triggering upfield. Transfer into Ball State, a guy that they were happy to pick up. Those should be not only easy access throws, but easy runs after the catch, but you got to get the perimeter blocking.
Another 3rd down for Georgia. They're 1 of 2 so far today. 4 receivers in the pattern. Beck's in trouble, gets rid of it as he's going to the ground. Pressure applied by Sidney Houston Jr., forcing a punt.
Yeah, they ran a little, it's like a TE stunt. That time, Sidney Houston, who had walked up inside, and what he'll end up doing is breaking outside, and they're going to loop a guy inside. But watch, Houston ends up getting inside the block of Ernest Green. They're on 2 different levels. See that? You end up having to ride that first guy further out. But the hard part is you see the looper looping inside, so you leave early.
Brett Thorson punts it. Nick Munson with the fair catch at the 13-yard line. How about this Ball State defense without their leader, Clayton Call, on the field? They FaceTimed before the game. They're playing hard, and they almost got Thorson on this punt. No score in Athens. Mike New won Ball State its first bowl game in program history as the head coach 3 years ago, beating San Jose State in the Arizona Bowl. He thinks this team is just as good as that one. Last year, Kentucky was in a dogfight in the second quarter, last week rather, excuse me. It was 10-7 midway through the second quarter when driving in Kentucky territory. Tanner Koziel fumbles, Jalen Geiger recovered it, 69 yards for a touchdown. Was it targeting, Mr. Stinchcomb?
It looked like targeting to me, that's for sure. Of course, when you look at the way that game worked out, you know, Ball State was not only leading, but they were outgaining Kentucky for a time. Salty, to say the least, in that game. And those turnovers really proved to be the difference. You see how long they held on to the football. Four 10-plus play drives, and dominated the time of possession. I mean, literally, it was keep away. They moved the football versus Kentucky.
Georgia's offense a bit sloppy. Can Ball State's offense take advantage? Samanza still in there. True freshman quarterback pumps, throws, middle of the field. Nice catch by Koziel to go upstairs. First down, just shy of the 30.
Samanza lost his helmet at the end of this play. It was a quick hitter, so all their quick throws, they cut block up front. That offensive front is going to dive at the feet or the knees of the defenders. Now you got to get Kyle Kelly in there, because of that helmet popping off.
He's the change of pace quarterback. Hatcher and Samanza, the co-starters. The sophomore from Tampa is a great runner. Ran it 7 times last week, and he's going to do it again here. Nothing much. Might have lost half a yard as Malachi Starks and Chaz Chambliss converged on him. Back in comes Samanza, and we'll see if they snap the ball before the end of the first quarter. You have to go back to that Auburn game last year, Stinch. Last time Georgia didn't score in a first quarter, so now it's been 10 games since Georgia went scoreless in the first, but here we are, no score with #1 Georgia and Ball State at the end of one. You'll hear from Kirby Smart when we come back.
Coach, how would you evaluate your offense so far?
Well, we had a great opening drive. We moved down the field. We don't handle third down real well right there. Carson fumbled, and we missed the kick. So if we would have got 4 points there, I'd felt much better about it. The second drive, we didn't get as much out of it, but at the end of the day, we only had 2 drives, and it's the end of the first quarter.
What's been the message to your defense so far?
Well, we got to get field position and turnovers. We need to get our offense the ball on our side of the 50, so we need some stops.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Samanza on the first play of the second quarter, incomplete. He was looking for Tanner Koziel in double coverage. What'd you think of what Kirby had to say?
No, I mean, nailed it, right? You feel a little bit better if you take advantage of that excellent opening field position off the kick return. Instead, you end up pulling it right. Defense has given up a couple of first downs, no rushing yards, and they've tightened down a little bit. You see defensive coordinator Glenn Schumann just alongside Coach Smart right down there on the field, signaling in the defensive calls. And now an opportunity for Georgia with a 3rd and long.
Plenty of time for Samanza, incomplete. Ty Robinson almost got it on the back shoulder against Dalen Everett, but couldn't bring it to his body. 4th down.
Watch Robinson high point this ball. Well delivered from Samanza, who's not scared to stand in there. Watch him go up and high point it, and Georgia fortunate because Dalen Everett was slow to interfere with this pass right here. Watch, he's off the body. The easy opportunity for Robinson to come up with it. Just a juggling catch on the sideline.
47-yard punt for Borough the first time. Couldn't pin Georgia deep. Muse at the 31. He's dangerous. He made a man miss. He's inside the 30. 69 yards. The sophomore from Grayson, Georgia, might be 5'7", and there's no way he's 185 pounds. But there isn't anybody that's got a bigger heart in a Georgia uniform than this guy. A career night last Saturday, and it continues the following week as he puts the Dogs on the board. It had been 14 years since the last time Georgia took a punt to the house. Charlie Todd did it against Western Michigan. And now Muse does it as Woodring's extra point is through there. Dogs up 7-0.
Well, after last week, Coach Smart said he didn't feel like they dominated in special teams. I would say so far, that's been maybe the biggest difference in this game. Excellent return game, both in kickoff and punt return. Watch the blocks out front. Roseby Jackson got a block. Tyke Smith with the block out front. Couple of starters on special teams on the punt return unit. And then you got Mekhi Muse, and it's been his story through the first two games so far. A great kickoff return to give Georgia half a football field to work with offensively, and then a punt return where it says, hey, offense, I got you for now. Get it figured out on the sidelines. I'll take it to the house.
I think the best compliment you can get from Kirby Smart is when he uses this word to describe you: overachiever.
Yeah.
There isn't anybody that's embodied that more than Muse has. Carson Beck, the quarterback, said he thinks Muse had the best fall camp. And remember, Ladd McConkey's back is still bothering him, so you bring Muse out to do some of the things Ladd does on offense and does in the special teams department.
He's definitely brought some juice to the return game. Big stop by the defense, big play by the special teams.
Jaron Circle with a nice big kick, and that ball goes into the end zone. Here's what we have for you for the rest of the day here on the ESPN family of networks. Here on SEC Network, it's Arkansas against Kent State, that team that gave Georgia fits last year. And SEC Saturday night, Arizona, Mississippi State. That's tonight. And then all of these other games are on SEC Plus: Kentucky, Tennessee, Mizzou, South Carolina, and LSU. Find all those on the app. We have a Georgia Bulldogs player that is down on the field. Hopefully this is just a cramp situation.
It definitely looks like that's the case. You see him right there trying to work out that cramp. We see a lot of that, especially in these early season games. Guys locking up, those calves grab.
Arian Smith and Nyland Green are both wearing double numbers, so we'll find out which one of them it is when we return and let you know. 7-0 UGA. Well, he was wearing 28, he took it off, and now he's wearing number 1. Nyland Green looks to be okay, just looked like a cramp. So he's over on the sideline. One of the many defensive backs that you will see in Coach Schumann's rotation on defense. Dogs rotate 2, maybe even 3 deep at just about every position. Lane Hatcher is on the field at quarterback for Ball State, and Hatcher throws, Samanza, that's still Samanza, he throws behind his intended target. Let's go down to Alyssa.
Being told that starting safety Javon Bullard is out of the game for now with a left ankle injury. Came out a little banged up just a few minutes ago. To be determined if he comes back in this football game.
That changes things a little bit. We talked about that rotation. Javon Bullard able to move back to that safety spot because of Tyke Smith, and now it's David Daniel Savannah in there right now.
Samanza was waiting for Cooper. All kinds of problems with flags on the field, and somehow Cooper never went to the ground as that play was busted from the start.
Yeah, they're gonna get a face mask inside. He was all bottled up.
Jason MacArthur is today's referee.
Looks like it was Kristen Miller who reached out and got a handful of face masks.
It's the first flag of the game. Stitch, that's about a 20-yard difference right there. Instead of a loss of 5, it's a pickup of 15.
And you look at it and you're sitting there going, look, this play is completely blown up. It's an effort penalty. He's just reaching out to try to make the play, and it happens just a little bit early. There it is. You see it snagging that face mask. It was all piled up, like you said, the mesh where Simons is back there. He's waiting on it. There's about 3 dogs already back there ready to take the handoff. A big swing, as you mentioned. You go from a big negative yardage play to a first down and push it out to the 40.
Webster and Koziel both going to the other side of the formation to block for Cooper, and he follows them up to the 45-yard line where he gets hit hard by David Daniel Sisavan. It's a pickup of 5.
Pretty clean up front. Kristen Miller falling off a block, couldn't make it quite. We mentioned Marquez Cooper. They think he looks a little bit leaner, the Georgia coaching staff, from what they saw him last year versus Kent State. Hasn't gotten a ton of touches so far this season.
I can tell you this offense going a lot slower than the one that Kent State was in last year, and Georgia's lucky that they weren't in the neutral zone. Cooper dancing, staying upright, getting blocks from his quarterback, Samanza, and somehow gained yardage on the play. Malachi Starks eventually forced him out.
I don't know how they didn't end up getting an encroachment right there with the jump. The right guard was reaching out trying to get him. But right now, the past couple of runs seemingly bottled up. They had a nice push on the one run. They've already gotten him to the jump. They just couldn't quite make contact with him. Able to get back was Warren Brinson. But already in this game, Ball State has had success on a short yardage scenario with Cooper.
They are 0 of 3 on 3rd down. They pick up the blitz. Simons has got an open receiver, but that ball drifts, and Starks picks it off. From top high school prospect to true freshman star, Kirby Smart wants this guy to find his voice as a sophomore. You heard that roar come out of him as he gets this interception, his first of the year. Dogs have the football and on top. Beautiful day between the hedges at Sanford Stadium, the second of 4 consecutive home games to start the year. That hasn't happened since the John Stinchcomb era back in 1999. Play host to South Carolina next week, and then UAB the week after that. Malachi Starks with his 3rd career interception on a ball that stayed up there way too long for Samanza.
Yeah, we saw that a couple of times, and we talked about it on a previous drive. The ball's hanging by Samanza. He's getting that ball out, maybe feel a little bit of the pressure. You're not going to have enough time like that versus a secondary that's got players with range like Malachi Starks. He will hawk that ball down.
Georgia only has 72 total yards in the game. They didn't score that touchdown. Mekhi Muse did on a punt return. Straight ahead, it's Roderick Robinson that will get a couple. And by the way, I got to give Nicole Hardman a shout out because he took a punt back to the house 5 years ago. Make sure that we give him some love. That's the last time any UGA player took a punt back to the house. Big true freshman from San Diego, 240 pounds.
Big
Strides
freshman
off the field. Cass Jones comes in, Stench.
And that speaks to, Dylan Bell's gotten a carry, a true freshman with Roderick Jones. Clearly got a pitch count on Kendall Milton.
Back to Smith. Smith with a flag down, gets up past the 35 to the 37-yard line. Jirik Mowry makes the tackle.
I think Mowry had a handful of Arian Smith's face mask. It looked like he ripped his mouthpiece off. Smart foul, though. I mean, hey, get him on the ground however you can get him on the ground, because Smith was almost running through this tackle, and if he does, nobody's going to catch him. Mallory just hanging on for dear life. 15 yards doesn't hurt you near as much as it does a house call.
In total, it's 28 yards after the 13-yard catch, but you're most likely right, would have been bigger than that. So Georgia back in Ball State territory. Beck, play action all day. Middle of the field, Smith in stride. 37 yards.
I was wondering when we were going to see it. On the third quarter, Kentucky said, no, what we're going to do, we're going to play action this defense to death. We're going to feel them. These safeties like to play downhill. They're very aggressive. See if we can't win with a heavy play fake. And that time, Arian Smith came all the way across the field, opposite side of the formation.
We've seen Mike Bobo's offense take some shots so far. It's the 8th play of 20-plus yards through the air so far in just 6 quarters of football. Now back to the end zone, one-on-one to Bowers, but good defense there by Tyler Red Potts.
Trying to back shoulder this to Bowers. And the ball looks like it's a little bit too far inside, just enough for Potts to make a play on it. You rarely see a ball even make it to Bowers' hands without him coming down with it. Great job that time by Potts.
And you rarely see a shutdown corner on a tight end.
Right.
Potts picked off Devin Leary of Kentucky last week. 2nd and goal to Jones. Cash gets down inside the 8. It's going to be 3rd down there. Lauren Strickland on the tackle. Again, remember Clayton Call and Joey Stimler out for Ball State on defense, down a couple of linebackers. What does Bobo call on this 3rd down? See the ranks under Bobo in the 8 years he was coordinating the offense. Last year with Monken, they were outstanding in the red zone. Beck throws off his back foot. Rosemy Jack Saint, touchdown. Kirby Smart says if we can keep Rosemy Jack Saint on the field, our leadership improves exponentially. He's battled injuries, had the suspension last week. He is back, and the Dogs score their first offensive touchdown of the game. And Woodring makes it 14-0.
Got things going with Arian Smith. Face mask that probably prevented a would-be touchdown, and then they were able to push it downfield, hit him again. Smith gets him down there close. Georgia's able to punch it in with Rosemy Jack Saint. The offense is on the board.
Senior from Pompano Beach, Florida, Marcus Rosemy Jack Saint with the first offensive touchdown for Georgia today. Makai Muse, of course, had that punt return for a touchdown. And without Ladd McConkey in the lineup, you're finding some other guys that are stepping up. Circle over the head, and Ball State gets it at the 25.
Well, you mentioned Rosemy Jack Saint. He's got that comfort level, and he needed it. So right here, you see this, you got 4 potential rushers, and we're going to work to the right at right guard, and the tackle's going to work out. That ends up leaving an unblocked defender. You just can't have a guy inside out on your quarterback. Great job by Beck, knowing where he can unload that football if they're overloaded from a pressure standpoint. Had pressure right in his face right now through that falling backwards. That's the trust that Carson Beck said over and over again. Trust. He probably used that word 7 or 8 times in our meeting with him yesterday.
And the give goes to Cooper, and Cooper gets a couple of yards up to the 27. Samanza's been effective at times, Stitch, but that mistake to Starks cost him.
They're trying to push the football downfield, and we talked about it's the reason why Samanza was inserted in the lineup. Lane Hatcher hadn't done anything a week ago versus Kentucky to lose that spot. They just wanted to be more aggressive. But when Samanza has pushed the ball downfield, the ball's hung on him. A lot of times, the pressure has gotten home.
Lane Hatcher still on the sideline, and Samanza is intercepted. That is off the foot of a receiver and caught out of the air by Chaz Chambliss. I mean, that's Franco Harris level stuff there.
It looked like it bounced off the right foot of Maximus Webster. Look at that, bam! And how about Chaz Chambliss? He's the run stopper. Big physical guy, coaches talk about him all the time. Roughneck. He's pass rushing, comes back around, Webster, that ball bounced right to Chambliss. Unbelievable.
Lifelong Georgia guy from Carrollton, made his first career start last week, gets to wear the gold pads after getting his first interception.
Did he put them on?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Crowd was crazy too.
All right.
Last two Ball State passes, both were picked off, and now Georgia with great field position at the Cardinals 30. That's Bowers in motion. Beck wants to go deep, instead dumps it off to Delp, and Oscar, Brock's understudy, gets 9 yards. Here he is.
Yeah. Now this is a guy, look, he'll set the edge. He will absolutely stick his face in the fan. Physical guy, not scared of it, but not the guy that you would think is going to end up with a lot of takeaways. When they issued that challenge, I don't know that they were expecting that. Chambliss, that was a heck of a reaction time. That ball was rocketing back at him.
On a 2nd and 1, Dylan Bell
Yeah.
in the backfield again. Seen this a number of times so far in the game. And gets the handoff.
Nice
Makes,
cut.
look at that cut. Look at this one. Touchdown, Dylan Bell. A 21-yard run for the sophomore from Houston.
Great cut by Dylan Bell. And boy, he amped up his offensive front off of this run. What a great, he bounced that thing all the way out. So watch, there's an empty edge. See this? Right here, you're reduced inside. It's going to be easier to collapse. A great job by Bell. Watch him feel this wave. You can feel it. The space defender coming in there. It's Keontae Newsom. He just breaks his ankles to get outside.
It was nothing going into the second quarter. 21 points in the last 6:15 for Kirby Smart's Dogs. The crazy interception for Chaz Chambliss started it. And then remember last year when the Georgia coaches said Dylan Bell might be our next deep ball threat? No, he's a running back now. 21-yard touchdown run. Looking forward to that, guys, coming up at halftime. Have some weather delays up in the Carolinas right now. So settle in and watch the #1 team in the country up 21-0 on Ball State. This Georgia defense, historically great the last few years under Kirby Smart. Now second-year defensive coordinator Glenn Schumann and co-defensive coordinator Will Muschamp. Only allowed 7 rushing touchdowns all of last season. Opponents only scored 14 points per game. But you're always looking for something to be better. And Coach Schumann and Coach Muschamp want to force more turnovers. Check and check. Intercepted the last 2 Caden Samanza passes. They go to the ground, and Cooper's got no place to go. He's going to lose a yard on the play as Tyke Smith comes up there and makes the tackle. He was emphatic with us yesterday about pressuring the defense, taking the football, or the offense rather, taking the football away from them this year.
Yeah, they wanted to be aggressive. They want to be aggressive in this game too. They talk about negative yardage plays as being a part of this chaos. And the whole idea is to force offenses to put the ball in jeopardy. They want to create those opportunities to generate takeaways.
That's the third tackle for loss for Georgia. And this ball to the middle of the field goes to Keon Magwood. It'll be third and medium. You know, one of the reasons why Georgia defenders don't have great stats is because Coach Schumann's he's rotating 2-3 deep at every single position. And he said, you know, when you lose 8 first-round picks on defense the last 2 years, the amount of rotating players helps your ability to replace all those guys. And that's why this UGA defense is expected to be every bit as good as the last 2. 0 for 4 is Ball State, make it 0 for 5 on third down. Over the head of Tanner Koziel with Dalen Everett all over him.
They all recognize something that comes up whenever you talk to these players at Georgia: time. You got to be patient. Your greatest seed field is time. You just got to sow it a little bit. See at some point in time when you're going to actually be able to get out there. Jamon Dumas-Johnson said, you got to know the playbook. And if you know the playbook, they'll get you out there. Eventually, you're going to get your time.
He's always coaching players up no matter what happens. Watch out. Makai Muse took it to the house last time, and he's off to the races again. They get him down to the ground past the 40-yard line. That is at the 41-yard line. Tonight, SEC football final at 10:30 Eastern after Arizona and Mississippi State. Whenever that game is over in Stark Vegas is when that will start. Who do you like in that one, with the Wildcats of Tucson coming to Stark Vegas to watch the Mississippi State ground game?
That's right, almost 300 yards rushing. Was 300 yards if you take out the kneel downs at the end of the game last week. And I think the Wildcats are going to have their hands full. I don't know, do people from Arizona know what a cowbell even sounds like? They're about to find out.
First and 10. Here comes the handoff on the sweep to C.J. Smith. And Smith can't get much as Keontae Newsom lowered the boom.
C.J. Smith coming around like that.
This Georgia offense with a similar dynamic in terms of leadership, minus Stetson Bennett, which is a big minus because he was that quarterback the last couple of years to lead them to the national championship game. And Stetson was here last week and has been in constant communication with Carson Beck. Beck swings it out to Muse, and Muse gets to midfield to the 50-yard line.
Nice block by Rosemy Jack-Saint. When we talk about the role that the receivers play, so he catches a touchdown pass, he's blocking on punt returns, he's coming inside, sealing off on a quick little now pass. That's why he's one of these guys that they point to as a leader. Not just his personality, his production, how he goes about playing that position. I have 8 different players with a quick sneak lineup here. Nice push.
Let's see if Beck got it. It's right at that yellow line where the judges come in.
Yeah.
It is a first down.
8 different receivers with a catch. That's something that has been a hallmark in the 2 national championship runs for Georgia. No team has had more games where they've had 10+ receivers with the reception. They spread the ball around on offense as well.
We were talking about the rotation on defense. I mean, the offense is no different. You had 11 guys catch a pass last week.
Maybe that's why you got to put a couple of receivers lined up in the backfield. Make sure they get their touches. Just hand it off to them.
And you haven't even seen Ladd McConkey yet this year. Maybe next week against the Gamecocks. Beck's got all kinds of time. Dumps it off underneath to Delp. They're going to say incomplete. Jordan Riley was right with Oscar, the big sophomore from Cumming, Georgia. Great catch on a ball behind him for a touchdown last week.
Once again, they were looking to push that ball downfield. Instead, they end up checking it. Delp just couldn't quite hang on to it. Good job by Jordan Riley of playing through that the entirety of that play. Didn't look like Delp ever had firm control. Watch Riley. Oh, I got to tell you, I didn't see that ball move much.
It looks like a catch all the way to the ground with arms all over him. Nevertheless, it is ruled an incompletion, and Kendall Milton's got nowhere to go on the right side of the line. Sidney Houston comes in to make the tackle, third down.
Great job by Sidney Houston. You get pulling linemen, what do? You get in their hip pocket. They're going to take you to the football. They're pulling for a reason. That's Sidney Houston. We called his name earlier with the pressure. That time with the tackle for loss. He's a pretty good pass rusher. We talked about him earlier. This time they've got him walked off the line of scrimmage.
Beck, the blitz picked up, and it yields a first down. C.J. Smith, 16 more yards for the Dogs in a first down.
Nice protection. Ended up bringing pressure from the field that time, the right side of the formation. Good job in the pickup, nice clean pocket. Time enough for C.J. Smith to break open.
C.J., the freshman from Apopka, Florida, had a 47-yard catch last week. And Beck to set up the tunnel, and it's dropped by Bowers. You don't say that very often.
No, you don't. You know, we've seen a couple of plays that are just uncharacteristic. Not necessarily bad when you think about it. Had a catch earlier, was tackled almost immediately. It was poor blocking in front of him. A contested throw earlier was actually really well played by Potts, but that time, just a catch that you see, he would make that routinely. It kind of humanizes Brock Bowers, I suppose. Didn't catch everything.
Only one catch for 3 yards. He was the catalyst for getting that offense going last week. Beck gets this one, a good ball to Ra Thomas, a Mississippi State transfer for 17 more inside the 15.
Only one catch a week ago, and the coaches said it was good to see him get a catch. A guy that's kind of been wrestling his way through the playbook, trying to get his head wrapped around it, coming from that air raid offense that they ran at Mississippi State. Different animal here at Georgia, more pro style.
62 catches last year for the late, great Mike Leach. And that one catch you mentioned last week was a 56-yarder. It was a big one. Beck, Bowers covered up and has to throw it away, and here comes a late hit flag on Brandon Berger.
Just can't do it. It's right in front of the official, the white hat. The head referee has the quarterback. There's no chance he misses it.
Personal foul, roughing the passer. Defense number 13, half the distance to the goal from the previous spot. Automatic first down.
Ball's clearly thrown. You take 1-2 steps. You even hitting high. I mean, all of it. That's an easy flag to come out. Kind of lowered his head too, incidentally. You are a defenseless player and you're throwing motion right there. He's not a runner, clearly a thrower. Regardless, a free 15.
So it sets up a 1st and goal with Milton in the backfield and Kendall right at Ball State's defense. And the offensive linemen help him get inside the 3-yard line. Big number 77, Cedric Van Pran Granger, wearing number 77 for the late Devin Willock today. Now the toss to Milton, reverses field, and gets inside the 2.
I think Georgia might have gotten away with a false start on the right side of their offensive line. Looks like they were a little bit early. Flag didn't come out, but the timing of the play was off.
They have used a ton of clock.
You know, it looked like they might have timed it up just right. I'm not so sure Milton couldn't have stuck with that play side. And find a way to just cram your head in there, follow your blockers. Instead, he tried to kind of cut it back.
It's the 11th play of the drive here, and a drive that's lasted over 5 minutes, under 2 minutes to go, and into the end zone, but dropped by Bell. Too busy thinking about being a running back now.
He was wide open, standing in the end zone. He just drops this pass by himself.
And Kirby Smart is keeping the offense on the field, up 21-0. The ball at the 2-yard line on this 4th and goal.
You got Lovett and Rosemary Jack Saint to the wide side of the field. And now Bowers.
And that's the way Beck goes, and he finds a wide open receiver with a flag down. It's Dominic Lovett.
I wonder if they're going to get him for offensive pass interference here.
Pass interference. Offense, number 1. 15-yard penalty. Still 4th down.
You hear analysts all over college football talk about rub routes used in this kind of position for touchdowns. What was the case here, Stinch?
So watch, Rosemary Jack Saint's going to work inside right here on Jordan Riley. I don't see it. I mean, that's not it. That's not offensive PI. I would disagree vehemently with that call. That was
Kirby Smart, your old teammate, absolutely does. He is incredulous down there on the sideline. 35-yard field goal attempt, and Woodring gets on track after missing his first attempt. 24-0, but that call cost Georgia 4 points. Our newest show is Read and React every Monday night at 7 Eastern. Cole Kubelik and Roman Harper host, and take a look back at the biggest college football plays, players, and games from this weekend. That's coming up on Monday night. I'm excited about the Aggies and the Hurricanes coming up a little bit later, Stinch. And then, of course, tonight in T-Town, the Tide and Texas.
Yeah, and the old All-State Crossbar Classic, man. That's going to be an interesting one. You think about the way that game went down a season ago. A near miss for Texas to get one win at home. It'll be interesting to see how it works for Quinn Ewers and that Texas offense. No Bijan Robinson in the backfield to lean on the road versus one of the best defensive secondaries, but excellent defense just in general. The Tide gets going a little bit with their offensive front.
I bet you know what this is going to be, Stinch. Let's check out the Good Hands play brought to you by Allstate.
How about incorporating your feet with the Good Hands play, or at least unintentionally? Maximus Webster bounces off the back of his foot. Chaz Chambliss, what a heads-up play, literally. I mean, it's not only is it unexpected, you're not expecting the ball to be coming towards you when you're facing the opposite way from the line of scrimmage. Unbelievable play by Chambliss.
Samanza, this one's batted in the air and also picked off. Again off the carom, it's Tyke Smith. He was an All-American at West Virginia. He was a role player last year for the Dogs. He's expected to be a leader in 2023.
It was Dalen Everett in coverage. He got his left arm in there, and it looked like it bounced off Ty Robinson's knee, maybe. It went straight up in the air. And as you mentioned, Taylor, really only one clean interception by Malachi Starks earlier. Everything else has been bouncing all over the place. Looks like a volleyball match out there.
Well, Kirby Smart gave Dalen Everett a mouthful last time he came off the field. The message got sent as he helped force that turnover and got Smith to wear the gold gear.
Out of the half.
So they were got to get an earful here.
30 seconds.
The substitution error on the quick change, and Tate Ratledge was late coming into the ball game. Now, they've been rolling some guys, wondering maybe if they were a little confused as to who was going to be taking those reps that time. seen Fairchild in there, it looked like, earlier.
I know that forever it's impossible for you not to watch the game at the line of scrimmage, given what you did as an All-American for these Dogs. How would you assess the offensive line, specifically with Ernest Green now at left tackle after Broderick Jones went to the pros?
You know, he had a couple of rough protection downs last week and has in this game as well as Ernest Green. We talked about the stunt pickup, but he has been on the shelf for a while, had that back injury, you know, took him out of commission, wasn't even practicing for a significant period of time. So this is a guy that's got to round into form. Big Wilson there too. Jared Wilson in there at left guard now. He was in there on an earlier series.
Back to the air goes Beck. And Beck's gonna take off inside the 10. And it'll be 1st and goal down at the 6. Don't tell Carson he can't run. He had a touchdown run last week and now a big 1st down run for 14 yards here.
So we're just talking about, so here's 71 right here. Big Ernest Green. And you see him in this snap late, open up that inside window. You just can't do it. That's the flash of that color that makes Carson Beck says, oh, I got to flush. I got to flush out of this pocket. Now, he could have just slid a little bit in the pocket and kept his eyes downfield.
This is Robinson, and the true freshman gets down to the 1. What would Munson say about this guy? 240 pounds out of high school.
You still like a line that, the way that Herschel Walker's radio high school broadcaster, like a rampaging rhinoceros. 240 pounds. You see this.
Poor Bill Bates is watching us somewhere saying, really, guys, are we really going back to getting run over in Knoxville 40 plus years ago?
Teammates later on with the Cowboys.
Inside 50 seconds left in the half, and evidently not in. As Beck kept it.
Timeout. Georgia.
Georgia will call another timeout.
That's their second timeout of the half. It'll be a 30-second timeout. 30 seconds.
Reminder, coming up at halftime, you can watch the live performance of the Redcoat Marching Band on SEC Network Plus. You can start streaming now on the ESPN app. Number 1 Georgia looking to get to 2-0 on the season before the Gamecocks come calling next week, and that Gamecock offensive line better improve in a hurry.
You're not kidding.
After what we saw last Saturday night.
9 sacks on Spencer Rattler. I mean, the guy he should get hazard pay from his NIL guys for that game. Unbelievable. Just running for his life. Now a 3rd and goal to go. This is a gut check. This is where you challenge that offensive front.
Under center, it's Milton diving. Touchdown. Kendall had 8 of his 9 career touchdowns last year, and that's his first of 2023.
Hamey looked all right on the vertical right there. Been slowed by that leg injury. Behind big Cedric Van Pran Granger, as you mentioned earlier, wearing number 77. A number of great significance now after the passing of Devin Willock, their line mate.
It was 0-0 when this quarter started. It's 31-0 now with 37 seconds left.
The special teams and turnovers, short fields. It's afforded really tough sled for the Ball State Cardinals defense. You see Milton just going airborne. Just enough over that goal line to get the ball into the end zone. Georgia able to capitalize on yet another short field to Karam. Their average field position in this game has been their own 47-yard line. It's been basically a 50-yard field for the Georgia Bulldogs. And that doesn't include the punt return for a touchdown. So you got points represented off that one as well.
A rough quarter for sure for Caden Samanza, who's thrown 3 interceptions, 2 of them off of deflections. Another on a ball that sailed on him that Malachi Starks picked off. And Jared Zirkle, who was battling Peyton Woodring, is the kickoff specialist for Georgia. He's done his job so far. It's almost through the end zone. Speaking of those interceptions, Stinch.
Yeah, ball is just kind of ping-ponging all over the place after Malachi Starks goes up top. To pick off that one was like a punt. Bounces off the back of a would-be receiver. Great heads-up play by Chambliss, and then Dalen Everett gets his arm in there. It was just enough. Tyke Smith, the recipient of that fortuitous bounce. 300 picks out of his last 5 attempts, Taylor.
We'll let Samanza finish the half as Cooper goes past the 30 up to the 31-yard line. Interested to see if we see Lane Hatcher in the second half. Hatcher played the first half last week, and Samanza played the second half. Maybe it's the opposite this week.
I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen more of Kyle Kelly in this game. I mean, he really only came in when Samanza lost his helmet. Otherwise, especially given the way UT Martin had success with the QB run game, Kelly seemed tailor-made for that. On the lookout for that more in the second half.
What a second quarter it was for the Georgia Bulldogs. They're up 31-0 going to the break. That's our halftime score. It's time now for the Farm Rich halftime report. Peter Burns and friends have you covered. We're back in Athens in just a little bit. SEC Saturday football presented by Allstate. After a slow start, the Dogs are rolling in the second quarter. All 31 of those points coming into the second frame. And come on back into Sanford Stadium with me. It's Matt, I'm Taylor, Alyssa is down there. Still have some questions to answer about the offense, but special teams and defense is pretty solid.
Oh, man, short fields all game long. They started out hot. It was a fantastic kick return by Makai Muse. They just weren't able to capitalize. There was a little bit of stuttering early on offensively. They were able to get some things going, especially with some personnel changes, right? Got receivers in there at the running back position. Finally got on the board.
Let's take a look at the Capital One rewarding performance. Speaking of those interceptions, here they are, Stinch.
It was a challenge coming into this game was takeaways. Something that they wanted to improve upon. They got it. Malachi Starks getting in on a ball that hung. And then a couple of carom balls. Chaz Chambliss gets one bouncing off the would-be receiver. Dalen Everett with a pass breakup goes right to Tyke Smith. Really, really short fields. And we talked about it. Georgia's been playing on basically a 50-yard field all afternoon.
There's the drive chart for the Dogs. Of course, you don't see the punt return for a touchdown that's also part of that. Let's go down to the field and Alyssa.
Yeah, guys, I talked to Coach New coming out of the locker room. I asked him what the emphasis was to his team. He said, continuing to emphasize one play at a time. We've got to focus on executing, keep fighting, don't get too ahead of ourselves. He said, hey, we're dealing with guys beat up in multiple positions, saying it's an opportunity for new guys to step up. Back-to-back SEC games, these guys have shown a lot of toughness.
Well, and Alyssa, it's going to include Lane Hatcher at quarterback. He hands to Marquez Cooper, loses half a yard. I wondered if we would see Hatcher in the second half. This is his 4th different school. Started his career at Alabama, didn't play there, but then was the starter at Arkansas State and Texas State. And in fact, he's ranked 2nd in Sun Belt history with 84 career touchdowns. Now moving on to the MAC, and I think the last thing that Coach New wants to do, to Alyssa's point, is hurt his true freshman quarterback, Caden Samanza, played him a half, let the trusty veteran come in off the bench and try to move the offense, and he throws a good ball to Keon Magwood. It'll be 3rd and 5.
Yeah, I think that's precisely what's going on here, right? I mean, you don't want to have your true freshman roll out there in week 1 versus Kentucky, an SEC school on the road. Lane Hatcher took on that duty. Get Samans to come in there, and he kind of pushed the ball downfield, but it was tough. Tough sledding in those first 2 quarters, especially from a pressure standpoint. Looks like they're only going to rush 3.
And on a 3rd and 5, Hatcher will throw over the top, incomplete, looking for Robinson. So it's a quick 3 and out. He did pass Eli Manning with 10,120 yards passing in his career, so he moves further up the all-time college football chart.
One of the things that the Georgia defense does so well, we talk about takeaways and the line of scrimmage, not many rushing yards to be had. They changed the picture from a protection standpoint so well a moment ago. Looks like they're only going to bring 3. They end up bringing 6. Makes the offense play on its heels from a protection standpoint.
Borrowed a punt again with Muse, who has a 69-yard punt return for a touchdown. He fields this one at the 24. He's off to the races again. Switching field a couple of times, but there's yellow laundry everywhere. Boy, is he shifty. Was a 33-yard punt return. Let's see if it stands.
During the return, holding number 1 in the receiving team, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Talking to Nyland Green.
Let's see if we can find him right here. The ball's going to drop in right on the SEC logo, and I don't know. Interesting.
Beck is back out there, 15 of 21 passing. Second career start after last week's first start. Bell is going to lose yardage on the first play. It was interesting, Alyssa, what Beck said about his relationship with Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, and a guy that anyone could learn a lot from, honestly, when you look at his journey through his time here in Athens, saying that he looks at Stetson Bennett and the advice that he gave him as far as don't take criticism from people who you wouldn't take advice from or positive reinforcement from. There's a lot of chatter outside of this building, but all you need to listen to is what your teammates say within the facility and what your family has to say about you. Also the patience that Beck demonstrated.
2nd and 13, dumps it off underneath to Milton, and Milton runs after the catch just short of the first down. It'll be 3rd and short, and he's a different guy than Stetson Bennett. Stetson had his own unique way of getting the most out of himself and his teammates. Beck 6'4", 220 pounds. You can see the great quarterback frame, and here's his arm. On a one-on-one ball, it's going to be picked off. Bell off the carom. It goes to Damian Charity, and Charity's scampering down the sidelines and is trucked out of bounds in the Ball State bench.
I'm wondering almost if they thought this was a free play. A ton of hand jockeying going on, that's for sure, with the ball in the air.
It was Algerique Mowry that picked that off. Correction there, not Damian Charity. It's Algerique Mowry off in that double team.
I don't know, it's the second time in this game it looked like
it was Charity that got his hand in, Stench, and Mowry that picked it off.
And I'm wondering if Georgia thought it was just a free play, assuming that they had gotten encroachment. The flag didn't come out.
It's the second play of the game that Ball State has run in Georgia territory, and it's Hatcher that'll do it this time and gets rid of it quickly, but Georgia sniffs that one out. Koziel will lose yardage. Dalen Everett with the tackle.
They'll be hard pressed to pick up positive yards offensively in the horizontal passing game. There's just not going to be a ton of room. Georgia does a good job of triggering, but not only that, Typically excellent open field tackles. That time a good job by Dalen Everett, the first man there.
So after the loss of 2, Ball State back at the Georgia 44. The handoff goes to to Barfield, and Barfield gets a yard of those 2 back. It'll be 3rd and 11.
Really good job up front. They just anchored well, did the defensive line. Kristen Miller among those. Little to no push. Now 3rd and 10 plus. And we talked about the big reason why Lane Hatcher is now in there. Samanza put the ball in jeopardy a couple of times. You got to be careful on a 3rd and 10 plus. To give the ball back to a defense that's already taken it away from you 3 times in the passing game.
Ball State's 0 of 6 on 3rd down today. Here comes the pressure from Munden. It's picked up. Hatcher still running for his life and has to throw it into the Ball State cheerleaders. Xavier Sori was all over Hatcher as he threw that ball away.
Just nowhere to go with this football, so look into the defensive secondary. Where you want to throw it? You can't like much. I mean, there's just coverage everywhere. The pocket's holding up for now. And then when it breaks down, I got away with a tug versus Xavier Sori. Of course, the crowd in attendance thought so.
Well, after the interception and the good field position, Ball State goes backwards and Burrow has to punt again. And it goes into the end zone. Georgia offense back out on the field, up big. Beautiful shot of Athens, GA, after Arizona and Mississippi State from Davis Wade with those cowbells clanging. Stay tuned for SEC football final. They have the biggest stories of the day and break down all the games. 10:30 Eastern or whenever. That one is over on the SEC Network and the ESPN app. You have to give Georgia's defense an A, special teams an A. Ball State just has 72 total yards, turned it over 3 times. Punt return for touchdown for Georgia. Cash Jones didn't get much, maybe a yard as Cole Pierce makes the tackle, but the offense is sputtering to be nice. Only 80 rushing yards. As you see Houston cramping on the field. And Georgia only has 244 total yards of offense so far, Stitch.
Part of that's been a function of those short fields. You haven't had a lot of field that you need to even drive. They only have 1 drive of more than 40 yards. You know, the interesting part has been it's you look at some of the edge blocking, for example, and you think about what they had last year with Darnell Washington. Who's going to step up, especially for like a perimeter run on that last run? You got to get better blocking, especially at tight end. You got a guy in Oscar Delp, who you're not going to be a primary target in the passing game. That will be your role in the offense. The last possession, he did not seal the edge well. The edge defender ends up making the play. You're going to pull, if you're going to try to pin and pull, you got to have guys that will do a better job of pinning. And right now, they've had difficulty in that. It's not just in that one area, incidentally. They got to get tied together along that offensive front. Some new faces that are in there playing together. And right now, it has not been well coordinated at times.
How about Javon Bullard with the boot on the sideline? Junior from Milledgeville, Georgia. They had that epic national championship performance with 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery. Houston just cramping. It is hot out there. It feels like north of 90 degrees here in the second Saturday in September. So on a 2nd and 9, Beck gets it to Muse, and Muse, after the catch, gets the first down. He's really been the brightest spot outside of Brock Bowers, who's always a bright spot. Muse, his star is shining, Alyssa. Try to get back to Alyssa here in a second. 1st and 10 at the 36-yard line with Dylan Bell in the backfield. Swing it again on a little quick pass, and it's Muse who gets past the 40 up to the 43-yard line. And we've really seen it on display today, Stinch, what Mike Bobo was talking about with us yesterday. Get Bowers, get Muse, get Bell the football as quickly as you can.
Yeah, and he's been able to do that. There have been some access throws, have been others where they just haven't been well blocked at the point. You know, the Bowers part is the one part that really hasn't gotten going, hadn't been for a lack of trying. Some uncharacteristic play from number 19 in the first half.
Well, it
bust.
Looks like that was a bust as Beck wanted to get rid of it. The receiver was on a different page than he was, and Jack Sape and Makari Siblis converged on Beck.
Yeah, he was trying to stand up and just throw it out there to Ra Thomas. Thomas is downfield trying to block. So Beck gets the snap. He stands up. He's thinking, I'm going to throw a now pass right now. Right now, just stand up like a quick little stork. Watch Thomas. He's up running a little hitch route. He looked over to the sideline.
Nice back shoulder ball there with Ra Thomas. And Thomas turns and goes down near the 40. That's a pickup of 16 yards.
Left him in there. Chance to go right back to him, and did. Nice recovery there. Go right back to Ra Thomas. Second target in this game. Would have been the third. Of course, Beck had to pull that down. And how about that? A little hung up with Potts at the end of that play there. Helmets got hung.
Cash Jones comes into the game as Georgia will snap this one from the Ball State 40. Beck wants to take a deep shot, checks it down to Jones, and Cash goes inside the 35-yard line. Stitch, you were talking about this. You could argue Ra Thomas was Mississippi State's best or second best receiver last year. Dominic Lovett was maybe Missouri's best receiver last year, and both of them come to the national championship program to compete with close to 10 receivers that are in the rotation with Georgia, and they're just two of the guys here, but they're willing to compete with the best program in America.
Guys in there wanting to mix it up. You know, they've been needed, certainly here early. When you think about with the suspension of Rosemary Jack-Saint and Ladd McConkey's lack of availability. Looking at Ra Thomas's eye there on the sideline. Got his helmet back on. Looks like he's ready to go in and play.
It's the ball down to the 27-yard line. Beck takes a shot to the end zone. What a grab. That's a touchdown for Cass Jones. There is a flag down.
Pass interference, defense number 1. Penalties decline. Result of the play, touchdown.
So it's a 27-yard touchdown for Cash Jones. Pun intended, this guy's become a money player in this Georgia offense.
Well, excellent protection that time all day for this to develop. Jones came out, wheel route, find his way into the end zone. Excellent grab. Took that one all the way in.
And Woodring will make it 38-0. Jones only had 6 carries and 6 catches before this season. 3 carries and 4 catches last week and a touchdown catch this week. Dogs all over Ball State. I'm sure CD would love being compared to Will Shepard. What a catch by one of the better receivers in the Southeastern Conference. And don't scoff at this. Vandy's top 2 receivers are legitimate top level SEC receivers.
I agree.
Will Shepard and Jaden McGowan, and only down 3. That very early kick, though it was delayed by weather. I feel like Vandy and Wake should have to play every year. Fielded at the 12 by Munson. And he gets past the 20. Beautiful shot of this great campus. Arkansas and Kent State. Dave Neal, D. Mace, and Taylor will have that for you. And then Tommy, Jordan, and Cole have the SEC Saturday night game with Mississippi State and Arizona. And all these games are on SEC Plus. Number 9, Tennessee against the Governors of Austin Peay. Mizzou's got MTSU for the big one next week against K-State. That's the noon kick on SEC Network next week. Cooper bouncing off Georgia Bulldogs, going the other way. Kristen Miller, who's had a good game, makes the tackle. Freshman from Ellenwood, Georgia.
Yeah, Kristen Miller, we've talked about him a couple of times. You know, he had that one face mask penalty, but partly because he just got upfield so quickly. Another one of those guys, that, they roll deep. We were talking about earlier the Georgia defense and how it's hard to pile up stats because you just don't pile up a ton of snaps. It's hard to stay on the field because of the talent that you would have to keep on the sideline.
You got a true freshman, C.J. Allen, is helping with the signals on the field right now, and that's a good ball. Best Hatcher's thrown today to Ahmad Edwards, senior transfer from Jacksonville State, and Ball State's in business after a 28-yard completion.
Yeah, only a 3-man rush. Plenty of time for that to develop. Came all the way across the formation. Dumas Johnson trailing in coverage, and he laid it in there nicely.
That's the longest play of the game for Ball State. Just a reminder, as you see Kelly at quarterback now, hand it off to Cooper. Georgia gave up 1 touchdown late in the game last week to UT Martin on a debatable touchdown catch, where Trevante Hunter of UT Martin went into the hedges, and they've pitched the shutout so far today, and that's Miller that's down.
As they tend to, Miller, you're right, Taylor. They talked about the way the defense performed, the run game that they gave up. See if Miller's okay.
A bit on the hot side, but beautiful in Athens, Georgia at Sanford Stadium. Second of 4 consecutive home games for the #1 team in college football. To start the season, beat UT Martin last week. Shutting out Ball State this week. Host South Carolina on CBS at 3:30 next week. And then the UAB Blazers close out the month before Georgia makes its first trip on the road and goes all the way to Auburn. On a little tunnel screen, it's Ahmad Edwards making the catch from Hatcher, and he gets down to the Georgia 44-yard line. Tackle made by Gabe Harris. Another one of those young players that Coach Schumann was telling us about yesterday, the freshman from Thomasville. You'll see Harris, C.J. Allen, quite a bit on the field. Jonell Aguero in the secondary is also a true freshman they expect a lot from this year. Ruby Smart watches his young team on the field on a 3rd and 2. Hatcher moves the pocket and throws, and it's a good ball for a first down. Caught by Magwood inside the 40, and Smart is over there coaching these guys up because he says if you're on the field, you're a starter. I don't care if we have 50 starters, but when you're on the field, I think of you as a starter.
Yeah, Jamon Dumas Johnson said the same thing. They talk about that if you're good enough, you're old enough. They don't care how young you are, what year you're in. When you're ready to play, you're ready to play. And if you're out there on the field, then your level of play is expected to be equal to those that start the game, the first guys that roll out there.
Hatcher is going to step up and take off, give himself up inside the 35 or right at it. Interested to see what Ball State decides as the season goes on. You got this kid Samanza that you believe is the future at quarterback, but you know good and well, Stinch, at the group of 5 level, you got a guy like this that's as polished as Hatcher is. You can go all the way to the MAC title game with a guy like that if he stays healthy.
If he's smart with the football, right? I mean, obviously you have to pick your spots. And in games like the first 2 contests that they've faced, you got to be aggressive at times. Perhaps that was the mindset coming in.
Hatcher tried to dart it in there in double coverage, and he was lucky to get that one back. Dan Jackson.
Swan's over there cheering on Hatcher on the sideline. You know, a little bit of a tell, and you're starting to see the secondary now. As soon as they see that offensive front cut block, they know it's a quick hitter. The ball's coming out, has to. The idea is to get that front line's hands down. And now what you're seeing is that secondary, they are jumping, nearly jumped that route. That ball almost ended up going the other direction.
Jonel Aguero was also in there with Jackson, and they're not going to get this play off on a 3rd and 6. We did the spring game, Stench, and that was the young player that really I was most impressed with. The freshman from Lynn, Massachusetts. Aguero was in on that last pass that was deflected.
Well, the coaches raved about him in the spring, and then they raved about him again yesterday. Just the unbelievable total package, it sounded like, you know, to hear them talking. This is not an effusive coaching staff. These guys don't go out of their way to blow sunshine, that's for sure. But they are really excited about what they have at number 8. You know, the guys, he rounds out everything that you're looking for. He's physical, he can close, he can play the ball in the air, but he's young. That's the caveat. That's what they tag it with. But he's young. And in this defense, you have to think and you have to understand what you're doing, especially in the back end. And because of that, you got to wait till those guys are ready. It goes back to what Jamon Dumas-Johnson said as the leader of that defense is, you got to get in that playbook. And once you've understood that, then they can respect you and expect you to be able to play.
Aguero at the top of your screen. Hatcher looks that way, throws underneath. Cooper stays upright and gets right at the first down. That was like a wobbly heavyweight fighter in the 12th round trying to stay on his feet. Somehow he did.
Yeah, Raylan Wilson, he came up a little bit too hot. Well, Marquez Cooper, we talked about it. The guy does a great job keeping his feet. And of course, Aguero.
He prevented the first down, Stinch, by making that play, and that's 4th and about a foot. They run it, no chance. Cooper is bottled up by Gabe Harris, and it's a turnover on downs.
Boy, they keyed on that rocket motion that time. And you can see them starting to collapse. So watch the edge. So here's Gabe Harris right here, but watch, they're going to start to collapse, and they're going to attack those 2 gaps as soon as the rocket motion starts. As soon as that cranks up, you see him crash down inside. So they're anticipating that play. Really well done. Great recognition, understanding what the offense is about to do based on a pre-snap motion. Really well executed that time.
This is a give to Robinson, who gets the edge. And the big true freshman never goes to the ground.
These players are bigger, faster, stronger. I didn't realize they've not been able to accommodate the length of their legs. Or their pants just can't quite get to the knees anymore.
You're not a fan of?
No, I'm cool with it. It's amazing. It's almost.
Are those pants?
Those are shorts, man. Everybody's wearing shorts.
And Carson Beck's showing off the new tats with his shorts as well. Still out there late in the second quarter, pumps, throws, wide open is dealt. Oscar's inside the 20, hurdling defenders. I bet he learned that move from Mr. Brock Bowers. 41 yards for the sophomore from Cumming, Georgia.
Came back to that concept. They tried a little screen and go earlier. You know, they do it so often. Of course, this defense kind of invites it. Good job of delivering the ball to Delp. Ball was behind him. You want that ball out in front so he doesn't have to check up. Gave him a chance to show off his hurdling skills.
It's the longest play of the game on offense, and then Robinson finishes the drill. This kid sure has looked impressive in the first couple of weeks of the season. 8 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown last week. And now 5 more carries for 36 yards and a score in week number 2. .45 nada.
Point after 10 is good.
So it's a box that you want. You got 5 blockers, you got 5 defenders. You're going to get inside like a pirate right here. So watch what Fairchild does a pretty good job of still climbing. Gets hung a little bit, tripped up, but it's just enough to force Cole Pierce to overrun it from his linebacking position. And a good job that time by Robinson of trusting the point of attack. A lot of times you'll see these young backs want to cut things back. And it all started with that big play to Delp. Could have been bigger with the ball out in front. Instead, he was able to turn around, catch it, rally. Inspired by his fellow tight end, Brock Bowers, goes to the air.
Last year we were at a Thursday practice with some of the assistant coaches. Of course, you had Darnell Washington, Brock Bowers, Eric Gilbert, unfortunately has had so many issues off the field no matter where he's played, and Delp. And the coaches were saying, wait till you see this kid. Number 4 as the flag comes in.
Yeah, they talked about him yesterday, probably the strongest guy in that room, you know, the most physical. And he's had to really work on that, on his blocking. Ball
Free
was
kick out of
kicked
bounds.
out of
On the
bounds.
kicking team, the receivers, they like to take the ball at the 35-yard line. First down.
A reminder, Thursday is our featured soccer matchup, the only one on the schedule. It begins conference play. Number 12, Alabama hosts Georgia over in T-Town, where the Tide haven't lost since the 2021 season. Coverage kicks at 7 Eastern on SEC Network and the ESPN app. Dogs and Tide been the standard in college football. Now they're going at it in soccer. Rico Barfield pick up half dozen on what might be the last play of the quarter. We'll see if Hatcher wants to snap one more. If you've been flipping around and you see this score, you may think that it's been Dogs' domination from the start. It was 0-0 in the second quarter, 31-0 going into the third quarter. Hatcher will get another one off. Gonna step up and get the first down past the 45 as Darius Smith makes the tackle at the end of 3.
That's the end of the third
Brock
quarter.
Vandegrift warming up on the Georgia bench for the fourth quarter in Athens.
Coach, you said you thought your offense could be a little bit more aggressive coming into today. How have you seen that so far?
Been proud of them. We've missed a couple things that we wanted to improve on, but at the end of the day, they're being efficient, doing a good job. We got to continue to work on the run game and be more efficient in the run game, but we got a quarterback that's an accurate passer. We got some explosive players around them, and we're still trying to figure all that out.
Is Carson done for the day?
As of now.
Who will we see next? What's the plan for the fourth quarter?
Brock's going to go next series.
What are you looking to see from him?
Go play. We're going to let him go play, let him keep getting better. I thought he did a good job last week. We need to play well around him.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Alyssa asked exactly what you'd want to know, and we got some great answers as to what we'll see in the fourth quarter. I love this new feature in 2023 when you can get insight like that. Kelly on a direct snap gets 8 yards for Ball State, who's being shut out by the Dogs 45-0. Kirby Smart believes that this team is as dynamic as last year's team. It's interesting what he said, Stinch, about how different the identity of 2022 was compared to 2021, but he thinks this team has a lot in common with last year's team. Kelly's going to throw it on a one-on-one ball. Good coverage down there by Nyland Green.
Yeah,
looking for Ty Robinson.
It was interesting, you know, when we were talking about the personality and the carryover. We took another look at this go ball. Nyland Green, Ty Robinson going at it. Obviously, Ty Robinson is their intended deep threat receiver. Tried multiple times to get him to football, that time denied. Good job by Nyland Green, getting his head around. There have not been a ton of opportunities to push the ball downfield successfully.
On a 3rd and 2, a great catch made by Barfield. He wasn't ready for it.
Pass is complete to Barfield.
Made the grab right on that yellow line, and it's a first down.
Spinning grab, right with his fingertips. You're right, he nailed it. I mean, just that was acrobatic, to say the least. Keep this drive moving. But in talking with the personality piece of it, he said, Kirby was like, look, yeah, we've lost some guys, but a lot of these guys have been in this program long enough to understand it. He thinks that the carryover, that they're very similar in how they approach the game.
Barfield down to the 40. What is the rotation going to look like on this side of the ball, I think, is my biggest question.
Yeah.
For when the games are competitive against SEC competition. They've gone 3-4 deep at almost every level of the defense, which is smart, Stinch, because you want to see what you have early in the season.
Sure, yeah, and you think about opposite Kamari Lassiter, that corner position. You know, we saw some Julian Humphrey, we saw some Dalen Everett today.
Barfield on 2nd and 7 gets a few more.
So that position kind of remains somewhat in flux. And, you know, it's not always a bad thing. It's, hey, has someone distinguished themselves? If you're getting really good play from both, then you're all right. But you would like for there to be some separation at some point, especially at corner. It's not a position that you typically rotate heavily. It's a position where you get your guys out there, you might give them a rest of time or two, but typically, if you go the distance, not often that you get a lot of in-game regular rotation out there in the corners.
Empty backfield for Hatcher on the 3rd and 5. Gets rid of it quickly on a slant. And right at the sticks again, it's Ahmad Edwards. It's enough to move the chains.
True freshman A.J. Harris on the coverage. He's on that near side. Kirby Smart out there almost to the numbers, coaching him up. All these guys, when we're talking to them even about how they approach their preparation, and it's unrelenting in practice regardless of who's out there. It does not matter. Regardless of the drill, all the drills, full speed and 100%.
Lane, nothing open. He's going to have to throw this away. And good for Hatcher that he's here at Ball State playing. I mentioned that it's his 4th different program that he's played for. I don't expect you to really be able to answer this, but can you help me understand how he's able to play immediately for Ball State and Tez Walker can't play for North Carolina after playing for Kent State last year, and Jaquarius Spivey can't play for Mississippi State after playing for TCU last year?
Nah, yeah, it's you can't reconcile one scenario to the next. It feels remarkably arbitrary.
Mac Brown went off on the NCAA the other day. The head coach of the Tar Heels on that. Rico Barfield, sophomore from St. Louis, in for Cooper. Played on this field for a different team last year. And we'll set up a 3rd down.
Yeah, you know, as fluid as rosters are now, Taylor, and how active things are in the portal, going back on that observation, they have to figure out something. There has to be a clear way to engage in transferring from one school to the next and determining eligibility.
They said multiple time transfers aren't going to have it as easy. Here's one at quarterback who's done it 3 times and transferred immediately, and he slings it for a first down to Robinson in the open field, and he gets down near the 10.
Bust underneath that time in coverage. Trying to bring some internal pressure. Like there was some confusion at linebacker as to who was going to handle underneath. Time it looked as if maybe they expected, it looked like they were expecting inside help. Gabe Harris.
First and goal as Ball State tries to score for the first time today. That's Kelly running around at the top of your screen. Hatcher gets hit as he throws and goes to the ground. Pressure by C.J. Madden.
He felt that. You could tell Hatcher knew it was coming. Madden had defeated the block, coming hard. And Hatcher narrowly unloads this football before he gets popped. You feel it right there. He knew it was coming. Good job by Madden. He won, then is able to shorten that corner, get to the quarterback.
13th play of the drive, just over 10 minutes to go. Fumble on the ball, Barfield coughed it up.
Based on the multiple explosions that we just heard next to us, we happen to be proximate to the coaches. It was, I think, a misalignment pre-snap.
Somehow Barfield was able to recover his fumble. 3rd and goal. Yes, the Georgia coaches who are next to us in their booth were not happy with the pre-snap alignment there.
Non-verbal communication, you call that.
Yeah.
Okay. Check this structure to make sure it's still sound.
C.J. Allen almost got it. 3rd and goal now. Play clock running out and timeout called by Mike New.
Prior to the snap.
9:14 to go in the 4th quarter. Georgia trying to keep Ball State out of the end zone. Wow.
Whoa.
Now that's a big deal.
They're down their top rusher from a year ago, their top 2 receivers. That's a big deal not to have Pratt. He was nearly perfect in week 1.
3rd and goal for Hatcher. Pressured and has to dump it out of bounds. Gabe Harris was all over him.
The Dogs are all over that play now. As soon as they see that offensive front go down, they are sitting about 6 yards. There is nowhere to go with the football. Success with that on one of their opening possessions. It really hasn't borne a whole lot of fruit since.
Freshman from Thomasville, Georgia, applying the pressure, and Mike New wants to score some points today. This is Jackson Corville, the freshman from Centerville, Ohio, who had his first career attempt blocked last week in Lexington. This one is through from 27 yards away, and Ball State is on the board. 9:05 to go in the 4th quarter, and Georgia is up 42.
SEC Network Football is presented by Allstate. You're in good hands.
SEC Network Football presented by Allstate UGA. Enjoying this one today as the Dogs are on top 45-3. Because of Matt Stinchcomb's recommendation, we went to The Place. That's the name of the place. The Place last night.
It's descriptive, right? Where you headed? The Place.
I had the honey bourbon glazed salmon over those rice cakes, which was delicious. The collard greens as well. Yeah, that's my plate. For some reason, Mr. Schofield refused to get the collard greens last night. Got corn instead.
That's just empty carbs.
fielded at the 15-yard line. And past the 36 goes Andrew Paul. So Paul will give way to a new quarterback for Georgia. It'll be Brock Vandegrift, the redshirt sophomore from Bogart, Georgia. Just about everybody wanted him out of high school. It's his third year in the program. He's appeared in 5 games before this season, but kind of surprising to say this, had his first completion last week. So he completed 2 balls in the game. Gives this off to Roderick Robinson. 6'3", 210 pounds, battled Beck for the starting job in the spring and into August, but pretty quickly in August, Kirby Smart named Carson Beck the starter. Beck certainly knows what Vandegrift's role is like. He played that role the last couple of years.
Certainly relate to it. You see Beck over there. Take the rest of the afternoon off. Join Brock Bowers, taking a little shade under the old linden tree on the sideline.
Well, Kirby told Alyssa, we're going to air it out, let him play the position. He was trying to find Anthony Evans there. That's incomplete.
He had a sure big play, first or second play that he was in last week. A little stutter and go, double move on the outside. Didn't get any more open, just didn't pull the trigger on it. Guy that they acknowledged he was feeling the nerves too a game ago.
3rd and 8, an obvious passing situation here. He's going to air it deep again. And again, it's over the head, this time of Jackson Meeks. So a quick 3 and out for Vandegrift on his first drive.
Nice protection, bunch of new faces up front. Just overthrowing Meeks. Sure that Meeks comes down with it. Didn't look like he really had a step right there. Also, a game removed from last week. I wonder what the carryover from a mentality standpoint is, game to game, especially when you're coming in backup duty.
It's your first 3 and out of the game for Georgia. Thorson, who was an all-SEC freshman last year, is punting for the 2nd time. It's another cannon.
Wow.
Fair catch at the 9 by Nick Munson. 45-3 Dogs with 8:06 to go. This is SEC Saturday football presented by All State. We've seen some crazy interceptions in this game. That's probably the craziest. Chaz Chambliss off the carom. He's wearing, is he not wearing Franco Harris's number? Franco Harris, 32. I mean, that was another crazy, immaculate reception.
32 over there too. Cash Jones, he had a nice immaculate reception of his own.
Kyle Kelly gets past the 10 up to the 11. Of course, for the maybe some that don't know, Franco Harris was that All-Pro Hall of Fame back for the Pittsburgh Steelers and caught a deflection against the Raiders in the early 70s. Played for the Penn State Nittany Lions as well. Passed away in the last year. Kelly remaining at quarterback, throwing on the move. And that's a good ball up to the 21-yard line to Keon Magwood. Would think that Coach New would want to just get out of here at this point. You got some points. If you score more, fine, but you want your team to be at least this intact by the time you go have the home opener next week in Muncie against Indiana State at 2 o'clock, and then begin your MAC schedule after that.
I get it though, with Kyle Kelly in there, knowing that he's going to play a role in every game, probably a far more prominent one. Nice run here.
Charlie Spiegel.
Than what we've seen this afternoon. So now let's have some film. Now defenses get to see, all right, so here he is. This is what number 1 looks like with more extended playing time, 1, and 2, this is what he looks like this season as a passer. Let's get the ball out of his hands a couple of times. That way you know that it's not just a one-dimensional threat when number 1's in there taking snaps.
Another good run, busting it, and past the 40-yard line goes sophomore from New Palestine, Indiana. He only had 1 carry last week. This one's good for 14 yards.
Good job up front, just misfit this run right there. So you've got Raylan Wilson just kind of jumping over. Instead of slow playing, he's in that backside B gap, and instead he overplays it. It's amazing. The ball will find it. If you misfit a run, that running back will find where you bounced out of your gap.
Kelly wants to throw and doesn't like what he sees, so throws it into the bench.
Number 35, David Wilson.
A guy that's a dynamic playmaker for that. You know, we saw it a week ago. He got more extensive playing time, especially when the game was more in flux. You know, one of the questions we had, and I'm a little bit surprised we didn't see it, that he didn't have a package earlier, knowing that the QB run game, that pull read that Georgia saw a week ago versus UT Martin, that was successful. We just didn't see that early in this game.
Deflected by Darius Smith. 3rd down.
This play by Darius Smith. Kyron Jones comes up, celebrates by blowing his teammate up. Kyron Jones, last week,
Pick 6.
16th defensive touchdown. Kid out of Charlotte Christian. Right down the road from the Zarza and Schofield households.
Much closer to the Schofield house, our trusty producer. It's where his children go to school. Kelly steps up, gets out of there, and gives himself up right short of the marker, so it's going to be 4th and short. Here's that Kyron Jones pick 6 against UT Martin. 3 of the 4 interceptions that Georgia has so far this year are off of caroms.
Yeah.
Not been cleanly fielded, you know, by the quarterback, been fielded off of someone else.
Malachi Starks, the only one with a traditional pick. Everybody else, they're using the opponent to make the pick first. Bit surprised that we're punting here on a 4th and 1.
Fair catch at the 16-yard line. One more chance for the Georgia offense to come onto the field when we come back. The number 19 is a great number as we go through SEC history this week. Scott Warner wore it in the late 70s for the Dogs, the 3rd-round pick in the '82 draft. Hines Ward did everything during the Stinchcomb era. In the mid-90s, a 2-time Super Bowl champion. Charles Grant inexplicably wore it on defense. He was a 1st-round pick. Is this the best number 19 ever, Brock Bowers?
Man, think about the versatility that all of those athletes had. You know, Werner, the returner, great defensive back, great kick returner. You got Charles Grant, who's playing defensive end, but he's also lining up at tailback. And then Hines, who played, let's see, he started the season off for us at receiver. Then Robert Edwards breaks his foot, so we put him at tailback. He was pretty darn good at that. And Mike Bobo at the time broke his knee. Putting Hines at quarterback. That did it all.
This is Gunnar Stockton at quarterback, throwing to Pierce Sperlin, the 3rd tight end that Georgia has for short completion. Stockton's still battling Vandegrift for the backup position. Redshirt freshman from Tiger, Georgia. He found Anthony Evans on the first play, and then Sperlin for a short gain on the 2nd, so it's another 3rd down. Vandegrift was 3 and out. Let's see if Stockton can move the chains here. Pocket collapses, and so does Stockton. Back at the 10-yard line, Danny Royster.
Didn't really like what he had downfield. Stockton just trying to buy some time, and so both backups go in, both backups 3 and out. Pierce Sperlin with that reception earlier, really only the third healthy tight end. Chad Lindbergh been playing to rundown tight end.
Boy, Thorson is just a weapon. One of the best punters in college football. It's another 48-yard punt. And just a reminder that what's coming up. Our guy Dave Neal with Derek Mason and Taylor Davis on the sidelines. It's Arkansas and Kent State next at 4 Eastern. Tom Hart, Jordan Rogers, and Cole Kublet are in Starkville for Mississippi State and Arizona. And then all these games are on SEC Plus that you can watch. And of course, Ole Miss is playing at the Tulane Green Wave over on ABC at the bottom of the hour.
Maybe without a starting quarterback for the Green Wave, that could be huge.
Tide and Texas on ESPN at 7 o'clock tonight. Speaking of Jordan Rogers, he picked the Longhorns.
It was a bold move.
Remember what happened last year? How in the world did Bryce Young not go down? Turn this in to putting them in Will Reichard field goal range, and Reichard won the game for #1 Alabama, and Saban survives against his buddy Sark. What do you expect tonight?
I've always wondered what was the second look back on that coach's handshake after that game. Coach Saban was walking off, and then he stops and turns around. Like, what was the callback? I'd love to know what that second comment was.
5-yard penalty. Still second down.
I think they're about to talk to me about Bama.
Alyssa, this is an Alabama team that is going to run the football a lot more than they did in that game last year.
Yeah, it feels that way. And you guys were talking about Bryce Young, you know, the game-changing plays he made in that game last year really put the team on his back. Can Jalen Milroe do the same thing? I'm very curious to see how well Quinn Ewers hits the deep ball, something he's struggled with since earning that starting spot.
It's a good point, and Bama's secondary is banged up. Kelly, while almost being tackled by Terrell Foster, got rid of it. 3rd and 14.
Handful of Terrell Foster's face mask. Yeah, you know, in this one, the part that gives you pause with the downfield passing, sure, but which I think that is something that they'll definitely want to emphasize. You're going to have to hit some big plays, I think. Playing on the road versus a very good football team. But I wonder if they'll be able to run the football effectively. And this is, as much as we've talked about the secondary for Alabama, I think that front seven might end up being, at least coming into the season, was underappreciated as to how good it could possibly be.
Spiegel past the 45. Patrick Taylor on the tackle for Georgia.
Taylor with the tackle for the Dogs.
As the Dogs empty the bench here today, Taylor is a junior from Johns Creek High School. Anthony Evans is deep to return this punt from Barrow. Evans at the 12. It's lassoed down near the 17-yard line. So Georgia will improve to 2-0. And we might have a personal foul penalty against Ball State here. Certainly Georgia will stay as the #1 team in the somewhat meaningless September polls.
Yeah.
Get challenged later in the month. Maybe next week against the Gamecocks. Then at Auburn at the end of the month. That game that everybody's going to talk about is the one in Knoxville, Tennessee on November 18th.
Yep. Look out here.
And
right there. That's the big one. That's the one that, you know, we're allowed to talk like that. Of course, internally at Georgia, they would never dream of looking down that far. They'll be, in 53 seconds, completely focused on South Carolina. Well, if there was ever a program that will completely okey-doke you as opposed to what you might expect, it's South Carolina, based on what we saw last year. They'll play horrible one week and great the next.
You're not kidding. Won 2 top 10 games against as an unranked team. Never been done before. Well, Georgia originally was going to be in Norman, Oklahoma to play the Sooners today. They'll have to wait for the Sooners to join the SEC to get a shot at those guys. Make the most out of beating Ball State today 45-3. Georgia improves to 2-0 and Ball State falls to its second consecutive SEC opponent. Ball State will play Indiana State next week at 2 o'clock in Muncie. Georgia will host South Carolina right here at Sanford Stadium at 3:30 next Saturday. And Coach Smart will go to the locker room as Alyssa talks to the starting quarterback.
Carson, you told us last week you were a little bit nervous coming out onto the field. What was the difference from last Saturday to today?
I felt good. I felt comfortable. I felt confident as well. I think practice went really well this week. We prepared really well, so that kind of added to that.
You told us about the amount of time you spent talking to your receivers throughout the course of the week. How did you feel your communication was with them today?
I thought it was really good. I mean, I thought we executed at a high level. I mean, we completed the ball. We did what we wanted to. Coach Bobo called the plays. We executed, and I thought we did really well.
You told us yesterday when we asked you, what could you have done better? You said everything. Give us an evaluation on how you felt you played today.
Yeah, I thought everything was better. You know, I thought overall as an offense, we moved the ball better, we ran the ball better, we threw the ball better. Obviously, we still have more that we can improve on. It's only week 2. It's a long season, so we'll get back, assess, and then practice this week, and hopefully come out even better next week.
Couple turnovers for your defense. They put you guys in great field position throughout the course of the game. What is it like having those guys at your back?
Yeah, I mean, I said the same thing last week. I mean, having our defense, something that we can depend on to give us good field position multiple times. I don't even know what the number was, but we had the ball inside the 50. It makes it a lot easier on us to, put the ball in the end zone and score points.
Thanks, Carson. Congrats.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So 23 of 30 for Beck today, 283 yards and 2 touchdowns. Got some help from special teams is Makai Muse at a punt return for touchdown and 3 interceptions on defense. Our final score is Georgia 45, Ball State 3. Thanks to Tom Schofield, Steve Turnberger, and our production crew. For Matt Stinchcomb, the entire Stinchcomb family, Alyssa Lang, the entire Lang family, I'm Taylor Zarzer. So long from Athens. After the break, it's SEC Now.